Daf Yomi, tractate Bava Batra, page 70a, top of the page. Daf Ayin Amud Aleph, with the words Vidayani Gola Amri. But the judges of the exile, Samuel and Karna, Vidayani Gola Amri, Kol Shehaol Kovsho, Lohavi Shiur, Kol she'ein ha'ol kosho havi shiur v'lo pligi ha-bedikle ha-bedilane. But the judges of the exile, Shmuel and Karna, say that any tree that is bent back by the yoke of oxen, as the animals plow the ground under the tree, and in this way the tree does not impede the plowing, is not retained by the seller, as it is not a significant tree. Any tree that is not bent back by the yoke of the oxen is retained by the seller and not included in the sale. The Gemara comments, and these Amoraim do not disagree with regard to the halacha, that which Rav said, that the only trees that the seller retains for himself and excludes from the sale are those that must be climbed by means of a rope, was said with regard to palm trees, while that which the judges of the exile said that the only trees that are retained are those that are not bent by the yoke of oxen, was said with regard to other types of trees. Boy mine ravacha barhuna mirosheshes. The Gemara cites a discussion related to the Mishnah's ruling that a grafted carob tree and a sycamore trunk are not included in the sale of the field. Ravacha barhuna mirosh. Boy mine ravacha barhuna mirosheshes. Rav Huna raises the lemon before Sheshes, Chutz mecharuv ploni, Chutz misadan ploni mahu. Oso charuv hu dilo kani, ha shar charuvim kani, o dilma. Shar charuvim nami lo kani, amrile lo kana. If one selling a field said to the buyer, I'm selling you the entire field except for such and such grafted carob tree, or except for such and such sycamore trunk, which is obviously in the field, and there were other grafted carob trees or sycamore trees in the field, what is the halacha? The Gemara explains the two sides of the question. Does the seller mean to say that it is the carob tree that the buyer does not acquire, but does he acquire the other carob trees, or perhaps he means that he does not acquire the rest of the carob trees? Rav Sheshet said to him in response, the buyer does not acquire any of them. Esve chutz mecharob ploni, chutz misadam ploni lo kana, my love. Also, charuv hu de lo kana hashar charuvin kana. Rav Acha raised an objection to Rav Sheshet from a brayta that states, if the seller says to the buyer, I'm selling you this field except for such and such a carob tree, or except for such and such a sycamore trunk, the buyer does not acquire it. What is it not that is this carob tree that he does not acquire, but he does not acquire the other carob tree? Amrle lo afilu shar charuvin nami lo kana teda de ilu. Amrle Sadi mechor la chutz misadei plonis ahi hud lo kani ha achronaisa kani ela lo kana achanami lo kana. Rav Sheshet said to him, no, what this means is that he does not acquire even the other carob trees. No, that this is correct. As if a person selling a field said to the buyer, my field is sold to you except for such a field that is adjacent to you, would you say that it is only that adjacent field that he does not acquire, but he acquires all the other fields owned by the seller? This is clearly not the case, as the seller explicitly stated that he is selling a certain field, not all of his fields. Rather, everyone would agree that the buyer does not acquire the other fields. Therefore, here too, the buyer does not acquire the other carob trees. V'ika de amri, and there are those who say that the discussion that took place went as follows. They have a different version of the discussion. Boy b'nei Ravacha, barhuna marashesh, chutz michatzi charu ploni, chutz michatzi sedan ploni mahu, shar charuvin vadin lokane ma, shishar also charuf kane, o dilma afilu ma shishar also charuf nami lokani, amar le lokani. So the other version is Rav Acha Bar Huna raised the lemon for Rishon. If one selling a field says the buyer, I'm selling you the entire field except for half of such and such a carob tree, or except for half of such and such a sycamore trunk. As the halacha, the Gemara explains the two sides of the question. Do we say that the buyer certainly does not acquire the other carob trees, but he does acquire what remains from that carob tree that was mentioned? That is the half of the carob tree that the seller did not specifically retain for himself, or perhaps he does not acquire even what remains from that carob tree. She said to him, even what remains from that carob tree, the buyer does not acquire. Rav raised an objection to She says, Chutz michazi charuv ploni, chutz michazi sedan ploni, shar charuvin lokana, maish lav shar charuvin hu to lokana ha de ma shishar also charuv kana. If Achar raised an objection to appreciation from a price that states as a seller says to the buyer, I'm selling you the entire field except for half of such a carob tree and except for half of such a sycamore trunk, the buyer does not acquire the other carob trees. What, is it not that the other carob trees he does not acquire but remains the carob tree he does acquire? Amar le lo. Rav says to him, no. Afilu ma shishar also charuv nami lokana. No, what this means is that he does not acquire even what remains of that carob tree. Teida, de ilu amale sele bechorelach, chutz michatzi sele ploni, hu de lokani ha'idach kana el lokani hanami lokani. Okay, know that this is correct. As if a person is selling a field to the buyer, my field is sold to you except for half of such and such a field. That is adjacent to it. Would you say that it is only that half of the field that he does not acquire, but he acquires the other half of the field? This is clearly not the case, as the seller explicitly stated that he is selling a certain field, nothing else. Rather, everyone would agree that the buyer does not acquire the other half of the field. Therefore, here too, the buyer does not acquire what remains of the carob tree. Rav Amram asked, raised the lemon for Rav Chizda. Hamav kereis l'chavera b'shtar v'molachas echazartim lach mahu mi amri amigo de iboy amor nensu mehaman hashanami mehaman o dilma amar le shtarach biyadi my boy amar le mehaman. Rav Amram raised his lemon for Rishon. If one deposits certain items with another and receives a document signed by witnesses testifying that he deposited these items with this individual, and the Bailey later says to him, I return the items to you, but the document is still in the hands of the depositor. What is the halacha? Do we say that since if the Bailey wanted to lie, he could have said that the items were taken from under circumstances beyond his control, and he would have been deemed credible? Therefore, now when he claims that he returns the items, he is deemed credible as well. Or perhaps the one who deposited the items can say to him, if you return the items, what is your document going to be? What is your document doing in my possession? Upon return of the deposit, you should have retrieved the document. Rechel said to him, the Bailey is deemed credible. V'lei malei. Shtarach biyadi my bayi amar le letamech ki amar le nansu yimatzi amar le shtarach biyadi my bayi amar le. If Amram asked, but let the depositor say to the bailey, if you rented the items, what is your document doing in my possession? Rav Chisda said to him, and according to your reasoning, if the bailey had said to him that the items were taken from from him under circumstances beyond his control, would he be liable to say to him, what is your document doing in my possession, since this claim could not be stated? Had the bailey stated the alternative claim, it can also not be stated when the bailey claims that the items were returned. Rav Amram said to him, and this is the end of 70a.